afternoon, everyone. Hallo zusammen. First of all, I would like to thank the Fast Backstage team, Alexander, Paul, for having me today and for giving me the opportunity to not only share our open source journey, but also help us put the city of Paris on the map of the European open source ecosystem. Always a great chance to learn from all of you. Thank you. My name is Philippe Bareille, and I run the City of Paris's OSPO Open Source Program Office. And today I will go back over the open source within City of Paris, its origins, its political will and policy that commits us as a city in the ecosystem. And since the creation of the city's OSPO, its first concrete actions and roadmap. So I'm very sorry not to be with you today, but as a Frenchman, I know how bad the impacts of the strikes can be, believe me. So to begin with, it's important to know how it all started back in 2001, when Mayor Delanoë asked us to come up with a solution with a centralized content management system that would allow non-technical people administrate websites for the 20 years. In the meantime, there were no such things as Drupal or WordPress, so the IT department decided to develop a website farm that would serve this need. So that's how the Lutece project was created. Less than a year after it was running live, the elected officials decided to share that project to allow other administrations to benefit from its features. So this is how in September 2002, elected members of the City of Paris Council have voted in favor of opening up the source code of the platform. A couple of years later, the new needs for digital services for our citizens made us reconsider the architecture of the framework. And the technical team in charge decided to make it a modular platform based on generic and thus reusable plugins to build a huge catalog of features for public administration to use. So it is possible by assembly. So to come over new needs, we just have to figure out what plugins have already been made for which purposes and assemble them and then see what's missing to only focus on this. So it is firstly designed to serve our own needs. And this is how we now deal with a citizen relationship management system, a powerful and fully editable workflow system that helps you design an administrative query processing, as well as decision-making tools to optimize your services. So this is how now we sit on top of a shelf made of more than 500 different available business modules that can easily serve more than 250 different digital services. So the City of Paris and its elected representatives have long been supporters of the open source cause, not only for these technical reasons, of course, but also because in a context of low and decreasing budget, we could all save money by thinking open, standard, generic, and reusable. Then, of course, the deal is to build transparency and trust when our citizens use our service platforms. We need to make sure they can trust us for bringing neutral software and that we actually properly deal with their personal data and that we don't drop them on some proprietary software that would replicate them all over the world. So it is also a great way to use standards and create a community of users to share the development, best practices, and also co-design and co-build new features that makes us sovereign on the tools roadmap, and also much more cost efficient. So when the cost of the maintenance of a proprietary software is about 20% of its value per year, for open source software, it is less than 1%. So when we talk about to show that on this domain, we do our best. We are proud supporters of the FSFE campaign, Public Money, Public Code, and I'm sure they are present at this event. Let me give them a great shout out. But they're not the only ones. Our elected officials and representatives have a real desire to let other administrations benefit from this budget that we have to develop our own digital services. So knowing that we share the majority of our needs and that the city spends public money to achieve them, it is obvious and natural that this money should only be used once to deal with the same issues. No need to spend it over and over again. So it's already been 23 years now, and it's now more than ever still an important matter. Of course, every software at City of Paris is not open source yet. Even though we have a policy to think open source first, we always have to adjust the needle to find the right balance between deadlines, costs, skills required, and already bought licenses that sometimes make us save money and time. So today, the Lutece project is actually running many City of Paris's digital services. As I said, the whole citizen relationship management systems, as well as notifications and private identity provider, are made with Lutece bricks. As the modules are as generic as possible, most of them are also reused for our own purposes on our intranet and for civil servants services for HR, for example. Then we have more than 150 different digital services available for citizens to use. One of them is Dans ma rue, that you can translate by In My Street, and which is used to report any non-emergency problem on the public space. The process behind automatically addresses the issues to the corresponding technical teams internally or even externally to fix them. So depending on a few parameters, such as the type of the incident, its location, etc. We also have our spontaneous query system, which also runs on a Lutece assembly, and the appointment booking system that allows close to 800,000 appointments a year. But that's not it. We also use open source to run all of these on our own infrastructure and so on. We also contribute to other community-based projects, such as OpenENT, that runs services for teachers, parents, and pupils for all of our schools, middle schools, and also high schools. There's also the project called Botanista for botanic gardens with many cities. So this is actually how the City of Paris has a strong footprint in open source since 2002. So being the first French administration to offer open source solutions, we quickly had a growing community of users and contributors that would enable us to spread the solution. And let's be transparent, hopefully share governance and thus take advantage of everyone's needs to co-develop and co-build. But the reality was quite different, as the development team had to keep on producing internal projects without having enough time to manage the contributions coming in from all over the world. But still, in the early days of Lutece, it was used by many actors that brought great contributions. So as of today, there are still about 30 different cities based on what we are informed of. We don't know all of them, of course, but here are a few of the known institutions that run. There are close to 36 cities using it still today. of any sizes, actually. The smaller city we know is about 8,000 people, and it runs up to cities such as Paris, which is about 2 million people. There are also groups of cities that decided to share the cost of implementing and running Lutece-based projects. This is the example of Pleine Commune, which is a group of 9 cities representing about 500,000 inhabitants. But not only public sector organizations, there is also a group of hospitals and care centers that use the appointment booking system, the resident during COVID, for example, and these hospitals didn't want to use any of the biggest proprietary solutions. Kept on growing and decreasing for about 20 years, based on the time we could actually spend on managing it as the community. So in 2018, we wanted to relaunch the external activities around the platform, expand the community, renew partnerships, more and better share the solution with which continues to evolve in a context that is also very changing, where public policies are placing citizens more at the heart of decisions for their cities to improve its quality of life. Our modules make this possible. This is when we identified how an open source program office, so the OSPO, could actually officially carry that out. So very cautiously, we began to work on it, and our various networks, associations that we are members of, also were planning to work on the notion of OSPO between a trendy term and a real standardized notion, enabling us to better define our activity. So the main objectives were clear, as listed there. But it was also a way and an opportunity to define the scope of what an OSPO in the public sector would be. Because in 2019, as far as we know, only the European Commission was also launching its OSPO, and we neither. So the concept had been widely implemented in the private sector for about 20 years. So it was time for the public sector to embrace it, not only follow and establish a standard that could also serve and inspire other local authorities. So we therefore contributed to OW2's work, others, to define the good governance initiative, which enables a global approach to its open source activities and the ability to consider every aspect without forgetting any. So then, depending on the sector of activity, context of use and application, we simply implement the methodology to define objectives that are our own, specific to our structure and priorities. So thanks to it, we had the first version of our roadmap. So this roadmap has enabled us to prioritize actions for immediate and medium-term benefits. First of all, it has enabled us to identify the role of the OSPO manager, which ensures follow-ups have been set by ourselves. So at Cite of Paris, this role provides a single point of contact between the outside world and the development and support teams. The first significant action was also to create the open source.paris.fr website, the first strong sign of the city's commitment to a public open source policy. The second was the creation of CiteLibre, our response to the need to minimize the technical effort involved in adopting Lutece solutions. You know what? A few years ago, when someone would come to us and ask us for a demo or to help them set up a digital solution with Lutece, our only response answer would be like, you know what, go to GitHub, everything's on. We've got docs, documentations, readmes, and we would just send a bunch of links. In our use of Lutece in the city, we already have industrialized a certain number of services that we can therefore easily share as they are. For example, and this is the most important point, identical ISO to our use. So fully integrated and fully featured. Integrating all the functionalities that we use and which are deployed in the city to run our services. As they evolve, because they still do, the roadmap is still going on, these solutions are updated and can therefore be reused identically. So these solutions are containerized and can be deployed in a dedicated environment with a single line, a command line. About 15 minutes later, you have a complete functional environment. This will also allows us to relaunch the community, resume events, and scour trade shows, forums, and conventions in search of players willing to join the community to use it, contribute to it, or even integrate it for their own customers. Last year, we also organized a translation hackathon, which allowed the Lutece core project to be translated in 6 different languages, and 6 others have started. So round 2 should happen in the next few months. So this is a part of the adaptable roadmap that started a year and a half ago, and that's always readjusting depending on city's needs. Why am I saying flexible is because actually we're public sector, we don't sell, we only engage in making sure that the software we deliver is the same as we use internally. So when I'm committed to delivering software, well, I can also decide just to switch a few projects around because, in my opinion, in the OSPO's opinion, it is more meaningful to release new projects because there are some needs that were raised amongst cities. So, as I was telling you about the appointment, I'm only going to talk about the but has been released almost a few years ago, or almost a couple years ago, sorry. Then there is the Service Easy platform that allows actually any build of administrative query. Let's face it, what is an administrative query? It is a form that you give citizens to fill to help them fulfill their administrative need. So all you do as an administration is get this data to identify the citizen and their needs. And then you transfer the file to the corresponding department that will take care of it, maybe transfer it to another department and such. And this can all be dealt with remotely. No need to get to the city hall. So Service Easy, to make it simple, and I will tell you, it actually covers 70% of our digital services at City of Paris, is the most generic way to offer digital a digital query, administrative query program. Then the CiteLibre Easy is actually a build which is more aimed at small to medium-sized cities and local authorities, and which mixes the Rendezvous app with the Service Easy app, and which provides full editorial to administrate your own content, provides with a contact form for technical or any other departments, as well as a newsletter and also a blog. We are currently working and launching the Particip Easy software as well, which is more aimed at involving the citizens in the city's life, make them decide, act for their city, and also gets part of the Dans ma rue application to enhance the quality of life in your city. In the next version, because we will iterate on this one before it gets too big, but we will soon also work on including the participatory budgeting solution. As you may know, many cities do this for years. It's a way for citizens to provide ideas and of anything that would be helpful for them, and for the city to allow budgets or part of its annual budget to realize those projects for the citizens. And then later this year, we will add the CRM, not customer, but citizen relationship management, as well as for civil servants to get services to, as well as family management. And this is a huge part that will not only be a single project, but will be added as an option to all of these previous projects that I've presented. But as I said, this is a very adjustable roadmap, very flexible. So if tomorrow City of Berlin, City of Stuttgart, whatever, comes to me and say, you know what, City of Paris OSPO, we need this, do you have it? And if I do, well, then I may include it and get some priority to it. So this is the end of my talk. Thank you very much for your attention. I realize this is right after lunch, so hopefully you're still awake. I wish I were present to answer questions and maybe individually talk to you, but being remotely probably won't allow us to. Let's see if there are any questions. I'll be very happy to answer, but please, before that, please know that you're very welcome to reach out to us through any of those links. We can go deeper into the available services and onboarding for users, as well as organizations that want to contribute or even become part of this community involving citizen services. Danke.
Philippe, I wanted to thank you for your talk, and we actually I'll walk the microphone over to people who have a question in the audience, but we don't have a ton of time, so you can only take one. Does anybody have a question? It looks like we do.
Hi. How did you take care of security risks and data protection for citizens?
Hi, and thank you for your question. Okay, for security, it's of course a very important topic. We do have security officers running and working at the IT department, and these people actually take care of organizing bug bounties, but not only. They also manage audits, code additions twice a year to make sure that, yes, it runs in a secure way. And also they work very hard in securing the whole infrastructure. So I think this is very important to understand and to know and to spread also as an idea that security is not only supported in the application, but also within the whole infrastructure. Because of course, this is open source software. It also needs to, maybe let me stop sharing. Maybe we need to securize by setting best practices like proxies, reverse proxies, firewalls, antiviruses and such, but not only the software. There was a second part of that was about the citizens' data, and we have the luck to actually own our own infrastructure and data centers and data lakes. So this helps us only store the related data internally and make sure these platforms and servers are secured properly.
Thank you so much for answering the question, Philippe, and thank you for joining us.